Charles, what are your thoughts on gain of function research? This is an interesting one. I watched an interview yesterday specifically on this topic. Um, it is just extraordinary to me that you can take already very deadly things like avian flu or hantavirus and then say, hey, how do we make these things more transmissible or actually allow human-to-human transmission? And this is research that's permitted. It makes no sense to do that because you ask yourself, okay, let's say you're successful and you learn a few things. What have you learned? You've learned how to make pathogens worse, and maybe you learn a little bit about how those pathogens work. Is there anything there that you would learn beyond what you would learn in a computer model? Maybe a little bit, but are you infecting humans? No. So you really don't know how these things work on humans. Okay, so infecting animals? All right, maybe, but you're not going to infer as much from that. So maybe your animal studies give you a little bit more than your computer studies would. But then you say, okay, that's it. That's all we learned. On the other hand, on the other side of it, if it leaks, you have killed 1 billion people. And this is a good idea. This is something that's just amazing. I mean, look how many people died from coronavirus. Probably was a lab leak more that we look at it. And it wasn't a very deadly virus compared to the family of all diseases that could affect from a pandemic. Imagine if the case fatality rate was 12% or 15% with coronavirus. We would have 50 to 100 million people die from that. Society would collapse. Store shelves would be empty. Another 50 to 100 million would die of starvation and war within the first year from a pandemic of that nature and scale. We might even have a world war or something like that. That is what gain of function gives you. And the problem is that even if you have one facility, it's amazing and everybody's doing it the right way. It's a game of numbers. The more research you do at the more facilities, the higher the probability, however small it is, that somebody's going to get it. Don't believe me? Look at the lottery, Mega Millions and Powerball individually. Guys, if you buy a ticket, you're not going to win. I'll say that with absolute confidence. Yet, every few weeks, every month or two, we have a winner because enough people buy enough tickets. It happens. So even if you have a very small per event chance of a lab leak over time, and you can Google lab leaks at level 4 labs, level 3 labs, from hoof and mouth to other things, it's happened. So does it make any sense at all to say, let's go create these mega dangerous, mega death pathogens with gain of function, and then at the same time, keep building more facilities and doing more of this research? Eventually, somewhere, somehow, either someone's going to screw up or a person's crazy in the head and they decide that it's time to end the human race. Don't believe me? Look at the guy flying the airplane, the pilot flying the airplane for, I think it was Lufthansa or one of their derivative companies. And he was flying, I think, around Germany, Switzerland, France, somewhere in that area. And he decided, because he was depressed, to crash the plane himself, killing all the passengers. People go crazy. And their scientists go crazy. I remember many years ago in Colorado, we had the Dark Knight Returns, and there was a shooting down in Colorado, a mass shooting with a crazy person who thought he was the Joker. Now, that particular person was a graduate student in neurobiology down at University of Colorado at Anschutz. Now, what if that same mentality is there, but it's applied towards a bio researcher? These people are friendly. They're not military people. They eat together. They talk together. They're very chummy. If somebody has malicious intent, they can do something to infect themselves or smuggle the pathogen out. And it just takes one person. The lab leak at Wuhan, if it happened, likely was either they were playing with bats or they did something in one of the rooms. They got infected. Maybe they were asymptomatic or had a mild infection, didn't think they were infected, didn't care, and went to the wet markets to get something to eat. Coughed on somebody, coughed on food, touched the utensils, someone else touched their face. It's out. That's it. It's all it takes. And you've killed 1 billion people. So why in God's name would we not regulate this type of research and really ask significant and serious policy questions about it? It's why the most recent episode of Lex Friedman, he had a guest on who talked about this at length with both Sam Harris and with Lex. And I tweeted, this is the most important Lex Friedman podcast he's ever done. General intelligence, AI, this type of stuff, it's 30, 40 years out. Maybe it's a threat, maybe it's not. It's easy to see how it would be. When we talk about designer bugs in organisms, it's here today. We're doing it today. They took avian virus H5N1 and they made it human transmissible. A 60% case fatality rate. And they did that in 2011. Okay? Look at how far the field has evolved. It's madness, absolute madness to fund this and not regulate this. It is one of the biggest existential problems. And the fact that we can't even be intellectually honest about the origins of coronavirus tells you that the world is not prepared for this type of research at all.